Thank you. Hi, everyone. So glad to be here today to talk about bootstrapping. I am two guys here, Gabriel and Loic. Maybe it would be a good start to start by introducing you guys. Maybe you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. Great to be here. Thank you, B2B Rocks, for the organization. I'm Gabriel. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Carmen. Spoiler alert, we are not a bootstrap company. You came to the wrong panel. No, I'm joking. We're a VC-backed company. We raised 22 million euros in seed round a couple months ago in January. And we support and accompany the growth of bootstrap companies in France. We'll talk about it during the conversation, but we built Carmen, which is a revenue-based financing solution to help bootstrap companies scale their companies quicker and faster, non-dilutively. And I'm the co-founder and CEO, and our team is right here. You.
Hi, everybody. I'm Loic. I'm CEO of Gestion Sports, a software who helps dirigents and managers and directors of sports clubs to develop and optimize their activities. I was player, tennis, paddle, and squash player. I was coach. I was director and manager. So I met a lot of problems, make solutions in the software, and I tried to develop this software in France first, and maybe next year in Europe.
Cool. Okay, thank you, guys. So yeah, that's interesting because you bootstrap your company, right? And you do not bootstrap anything, but you do work with companies that are in the bootstrap side. So maybe that's more a question for Loic, but why did you bootstrap your company, and what is your journey so far? Like, you did not raise money yet, or at least you didn't talk to an VC or whatever, and why did you do that? Why did you take that path?
To me, it was normal at first, because if you want to work, you have to find customers, you have to do it one way. Money is, if you have a lot of customers, you have money. So to me, 2 years ago, it was just this way to me. And now it's another problem because we have to be focused on the market and to be fast. So we need some money now. But it was when we had 30 customers, we hire one person, and each 30 we hire one person. And to me it was normal. To my associate it was normal. And I think we don't need money first. We need customers first. After, we will see.
Yeah, that's, I can rely on that. So we also bootstrap Mergify for the last 4 years, and we also I think it's a mindset where you try to actually focus more on your customers early on, and not trying to like do a pre-seed. You don't have any customers, and you're trying to get money first, and you spend more time trying to understand your customers, more of that rather than just building decks and get money. It's a bit of a different mindset, and I wanted to have your view on that, Gabriel. About like you talk to a lot of companies that are bootstrap, and do you think that like, I mean, do you know why they actually are bootstrap? Do we want to keep that this way? Do they want to evolve? What's your view on that? The companies you talk to?
I mean, there still seems to be a stigma around bootstrapping, which we think is completely wrong. Bootstrapping is great. Everybody should bootstrap because it means you're building a sustainable company that is growing in a sustainable way. We're witnessing, market circumstances and contexts where VC money and external capital isn't as easy as it used to be for the last 5 years. Interest rates are rising. And we're very excited to see, a renewal, une renaissance of how business and entrepreneurs are approaching bootstrapping their companies. In the companies we accompany, we have two types. There's around half which are VC-backed, and we help them as a complement. And the other half are bootstrappers, right? And the beauty is that they stay in control of their business. They don't have to report to, external advisors, external investors. They don't have investors at the board seats telling them what to do and what not to do. So we're very excited to see the renewal of a bootstrapping, especially. Merci. And we're very excited to see it come back in fashion. It is the most sustainable and the most safe way to grow a business. Grow as your revenues are growing, and businesses that aren't ready for nitro fuel that VC or external capital brings can be very dangerous to raise money too quick or too soon at the wrong valuation under the wrong conditions.
That's a very good point, and I think it relates on what I was saying before. And another question I would have on like bootstrapping is like, it's a bit harder at the beginning, but and that's another question is like, how do you do bootstrapping where you actually, there's a pretty good path nowadays, like there's a lot of documentation on raising money basically and why you need to raise money and you have good resources also because I think there's a lot of VCs building those resources to preach their own church basically because they want you to go to get them and get money. But so I don't know if you guys have a good view on that, but how do you bootstrap basically? Or what are your resources when you start a bootstrap company? And I don't know if Gabriel, you have any view on that or?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the biggest resource you have as bootstrappers is your clients, right? Your clients is what makes your company go forward. It's the revenue that you're billing upfront or monthly or at the transaction that helps you scale, that helps you buy inventory, that helps you recruit team members. And so that's your core resources. And the beauty of the bootstrapping model is that it makes sure that you're constantly laser focused on better serving your customers to make sure that they're happy with your solution and then they pay you. Whereas more often than not, the venture-backed companies, the one that are raising, the $1 million and the tens of $1 million, they're focused on growth, right? And they're not focused on serving best their customers. They're not focused on making sure that their top line is sustainable and healthy. And what happens is when they run out of cash, they realize that 12 months later or 18 months later, when they're out of runway, their customers aren't necessarily happy with their solution or their business, and they haven't focused on their core thing, on their core base, which is the client. So we're very happy to see bootstrappers, having the right North Star, which is focusing on what makes the client happy, very being customer-centric, making sure the top line grows sustainably and durably, and using that as a real resource and leverage to grow your business.
Yeah, I write on that too. I mean, we've been doing that since the beginning at Mergify, trying to focus on not on the growth, but on serving the customers, and then the growth come after, and not trying to, I mean, you have your own KPI, but those are your KPI, not the one you might be targeting for this. I actually don't know what VC look for as a KPI. Like maybe that's the same as we use in our day-to-day activities, most likely, but maybe not, because you work differently. Like the mindset is a bit different, like I was saying. And I think we're talking a lot about money here, and one of the things I remember like 2 years ago, I was chatting with a friend. I was like, well, you could get maybe $1 or $2 million right now. I mean, in 3 months from a VC, whatever. And one of the things that is a bit different was I was like 2 years ago that I had no clue what to do with like $2 million. Like you could put that on my bank account, and I don't know what to spend. Like I don't know who to hire first. I don't know where to start to spend that amount of money. I'm way better at trying to, find my way with less resources. And that's something that's very interesting in bootstrapping, that you don't have a lot of time, usually don't have a lot of money, and you have to be very precise about what you do. Like basically, it's true also when you raise, but it's even worse when you don't raise, because any bad choice might kill your company faster than with a VC, because you basically don't have a lot of runway. So, and that's something that's interesting, as VC bring money on the table, but sometimes also bring other things, and that might not be something that you do with Carmen. And I don't know, Loic, if you have any view on that. Like basically, what are your, or nobody, like you want to hire somebody, you want to build your team, right? You started to hire people to bring on your team, and VC, for example, have a good reputation of bringing people, having a network of people they can bring for you that you can hire, and you don't have access to that pool of talent, for example, from the VC world when you bootstrap. So what's your experience, maybe, Loic, on that, on hiring people, building your team, basically?
I was lucky. I was lucky because when you are working with your co-founder, my associate, it was very tight, and I just put in information on the media magazine, Paddle magazine exactly, and in 2 days we have first call. So I say him yes, okay, go, let's go. We need someone. It was my first sales, and after that, it was more easy to hire because you find a lot of customers. So we had like oxygens, and we hire a second person, developer, IT, and after a third, 4 extra. We are 8. So sometimes you can be lucky. Sometimes you have to find and take your time to find a good one. Sometimes you make mistakes. That's the life. And in France, we are lucky because we have 4 months to know if you can work with this person or not. But the most important, I think, is the values of the person. And after, if it's a good person, I think you can develop and optimize your company.
But I want to bounce on what you were saying too, which is VC capital, can help you scale your company very quick. It's a way to inject money into the bank account to help you scale quickly. We've raised money ourselves, but there's a French saying, which is very appropriate, which is saying faire entrer le loup dans la bergerie, which means, letting the fox in the hen garden. Because when things go well, it's great. They'll keep funding you. They make intros to investors. They make intros to clients. They help you come to B2B Rocks. All these great things. But when things go wrong and when things go sour, well, you have someone who owns, part of your company. It's like if you gave your arm away or your leg away. They direct your decisions, and you lose control of what really matters. And if you want to hire someone, maybe they tell you, well, you can't hire someone because you don't have enough money. So there's really a two-sided coin, and for the last 10 years in the tech ecosystem in France, the VCs have controlled a lot of what is going on, and we're seeing a renaissance, une renaissance of alternative ways to scale a business. And what we're doing as Carmen is one of them, but there's also many others. There's great public institutions like the BPI that provide lots of capital to bootstrapped entrepreneurs all across France. There's local collectivities in different regions, whether it's here in Montpellier or in all regions of France, that subsidize recruitment plans, that subsidize R&D plans, that subsidize deep work and deep research. There's the banks, which are not very present in the tech ecosystem, but sometimes, if you have assets or inventory, they come and finance you. So all that to say that, the VCs have controlled the dance for the last 10 years. And since 2021, 2022, it's not the case anymore. And there's a plethora of different actors, of different stakeholders that are here to help bootstrappers scale their companies. And this is one of our missions at Carmen, but I know we're not the only ones. And that's why we're very excited to see the bootstrappers come back in fashion and get control on how they scale their business.
You were mentioning VC, getting on your board and like taking the control, but depending on the percentage they get. But I'm scared because you're saying like they can basically kill your company, right? Like if you're in trouble, they might decide actually that they don't want to help you anymore and maybe not raise any new money or lead any new round or whatever. And so that's a scary thing. I'm glad I didn't talk to VC yet. So. But yeah, I think you summarized that pretty well, where it's a two-sided of a coin, where it's very powerful to have money and to grow faster, but then you have to know how to use that. And I've seen a lot of companies over the last years having a lot of money, but not having a good way of spending the money. So there have been a lot of money, and you mentioned that over the last decade, like the money was pretty easy to easy to get access to. A lot of liquidity everywhere. People, really trying to give you the money to do something because so much money around, and that might change, right? We were discussing that earlier, like, I think everybody saw the YC kind of memo that went out last month or so, and that might be a turnaround, and maybe bootstrap is the new thing for the next decade. What do you think, Gabriel? You're probably betting on that, right?
We're definitely seeing a market slowdown. It's coming from the United States first, and then it's coming towards Europe, where interest rates are rising, which makes it harder for people to invest and inject money in the ecosystem. This is true for banks, because banks are financing less and less. This is true for governments. And then finally, this is also true for VCs. This is why alternative players in the non-dilutive space have a role to play to be, an alternative solution to help replace these actors. And this is our mission at Carmen. But again, I'm not doing the promotion for us because there's plenty of other actors that are doing this, helping entrepreneurs, helping companies in many other ways scale their business alternatively than what the mainstream solutions might be. But this is definitely a time where cash is king. And as you said, money has been readily available and easily flowing for the last 10 years, but it's changing. And what we tell all our entrepreneurs and all our investors, and we have several dozens of entrepreneurs that we work with on a day-to-day basis, is that right now you should be thinking about extending your runway as much as possible to navigate the storm ahead. And there's plenty of ways to do this, whether it's increasing your sales, reducing your costs, and we can talk about the different details, but just making sure that you have a stable cash position on hand to help you be in a position of strength during the difficult 12, 18 months ahead is definitely what we recommend to all our entrepreneurs. And there's a very powerful and very viral letter from Y Combinator, the very famous startup incubator from California that you guys might know, that went around less than 2-3 weeks ago, where they send a letter to thousands of their companies saying that the context is changing and that cash is king, as they say themselves.
I think that's from cash is also always king, whatever the weather is, and the weather might be a little not going better anytime soon. No, I mean it's maybe the worst is ahead, and I think we'll see who is naked when the sea will get back. I love this Warren Buffett quote. So and I wanted to ask you, I mean Loic, so you've been bootstrap for the last years, and do you plan on staying bootstrap? Do you think it's a long-term thing where you can actually stay bootstrap forever?
No. Actually, it depends of the market. If you are alone on the market, you can continue to bootstrap, of course. But to me, we are two on the market, and we have to be quickly than the concurrence. So we need to find some money to hire a lot and to become the leader on the market of the sports. And after, around the world, we have 2 other softwares. So if we are not quickly on that, I think it's not a good game. So it depends of the market, and sometimes you can have a lot of chance and develop very quickly just with bootstrap, and sometimes, like us, you have to find investors, you have to find money to continue and to be quickly on this market.
To bounce on that, I think an interesting trend is also bootstrap companies like you guys have something that very few companies have, which is that you're profitable, which means that you can use that as a strength when you do go out to open your capital, which is what you're saying. Because if an unprofitable company goes out to CVCs, well, they're not in the position of strength because they have no money and they're losing money and they're burning money and their business model isn't economically sound. Whereas a bootstrap company that has been bootstrapped for a year, 2 years, 5 years, and that has been steadily growing, the day it decides to open its capital is in a position of strength and can do it on much more favorable conditions and terms than someone who's not profitable and someone whose business model hasn't been economically proven. And so I see your example as a strong and sane bootstrap companies looking to accelerate, which is a very smart investment, as opposed to a company raising VC money because they have to, because if they don't, they die. And it's very 2 different approaches and rationales.
I think also another way people don't necessarily see on raising money is that in the case of Loic, I mean, his company sells to sports club, all of that, where you don't have to prove to be rock solid, where in certain industry, if you want to sell to, let's say, a big company, Fortune 500 companies, you have to be seen as a very big player. And you can do that when you bootstrap because, well, you're very small. You basically just started and you don't have a lot of money. And I'm seeing something which disturbs me, but I do understand is that a lot of emails I get every week is like from company software I use or whatever, and they're like, well, we raise whatever millions of dollars, we are doing our Series C, whatever, and I don't really care as a customer, but I understand there are big companies that cares because they're seeing the company being backed by a large VC funds, whatever. and they know it's maybe rock solid or seriously taken by investors, and they know they have the strengths to, not die in the next 2 years or something, so you can take the time to try to invest on them and maybe buy their product. Whereas when you see just a new player which just started and they don't have any money in the bank, you're not going to buy their product because you're like, well, they're going to be bankrupt the next month maybe. So that's something that's very hard when you bootstrap, that you have to maybe not target first. The big companies out there and start to find small companies. And I think sports clubs are a pretty good example of that. It really depends on which market you're going to. It's the same thing if you're doing software, which is pretty low on capital. You basically just have to spend time. You don't have a lot of things to buy. And there's a lot of software out there you can use for free. Free software, obviously, but even SaaS or the free plan or whatever. So it's really easy to start a company as bootstrap. It's more a matter of having the right mindset, which I call the cockroach mindset. Like you don't have anything, so you're just trying to survive from whatever is free on the internet for a while, and then you try to grow all of that. And it's totally doable. It's like not comfortable. I don't think being an entrepreneur should be like comfortable. It's not the goal. And yeah, the amount of money you've been able to raise over the last years made that very easy and trendy, maybe. So it might not be anymore. We'll see. But yeah, that's a very interesting view where sometimes if you also do something where like doing hardware is often, or in your case, like having money to lend to other companies, you have to raise money because you can't really bootstrap that, or it's going to be very long to bootstrap the company such as yours.
Our model for Carmen is very capital intensive because we raise money to then distribute it to other companies like bootstrap companies. So there's no way our model can be bootstrapped. But the other thing I want to add is for those who are in France, France has a very, very strong ecosystem for bootstrap companies where public institutions are very generous. La BPI, la Banque Publique d'Investissement,
Pôle emploi.
Pôle emploi, vraiment. All the public institutions, all the social institutions, all the employment institutions are very generous, and they make it, I think, a lot easier for French bootstrap companies to scale than in other countries. And me, I was in the US for most of my studies and my career, and there, bootstrapping a company is very hard because there's no social aid, there's very difficult welfare. So as an entrepreneur and as a company, it's very hard to scale. Whereas here, there's many resources that people can leverage, and it's it's free money. I guess there's no other way to say it.
Yeah, you're right. People are, especially in France, they like to say the system is very hard, but it's actually very easy to start a company in France, and you have a lot of help. You can work with Pôle emploi for 2 years, being paid if you had a job before. You can, talk to BPI, etc. As you mentioned, there are a lot of way of working and building your company and bootstrap it, basically. It's a shame the government doesn't take share in your company since we're giving you money, but that's another issue. And even like if you're doing R&D, there are like GEI, Crédit Impôt Recherche, things like that, which can make it very cheap, basically, to do R&D in France, and it's very comfortable to build your company slowly and steadily, even if you don't have $1 million on your bank account. Maybe one more question for maybe Loic or to you too, but what would you say, like maybe the mistakes you did and you'd like to share? Like there are maybe some things that you did while being bootstrapped that you regret or should do differently?
I don't know what kind of mistakes. I did a lot of mistakes, of course, and you must to make a lot of mistakes. The bad one is just to say yes early. Sometimes you want to make money, find customers, and you want to be quickly, but sometimes you have just to take your time and don't say yes or no now, but take your time, 1 day, 2 days, 1 week. And sometimes it's better. You can lose 1 week, 1 month, but after that you can accelerate. So I did these mistakes and a lot of them, but this one is to me very important. I think if you want to grow up your company.
Me, we're not a bootstrap company, so I can't answer for us, but I can tell you what we see a lot in the companies that we finance. And I think that the biggest difficulty, which is not a mistake, but it's something they struggle with, is struggling with the cash cycle. Because we all have our different business models, whether we're a SaaS company, a software, an e-commerce, a restaurant, a real estate business. And the way in which we pay money and then we receive money is always different. And a lot of the bootstrappers we see, they're very dependent on that cash cycle to grow. And so they pay their suppliers or their facture or their suppliers up front, and then they have to wait 30, 60, 90 days, sometimes even more, to get their revenues. And they have to wait for these revenues to then start hiring people or investing into a new product line. Which means that every investment they make is sometimes often very delayed and takes a lot of time. And that's, I think one of the biggest pain points we see in bootstrap companies is that the turnaround time and the innovation time is slowed down by the fact that the cash just isn't there. And what we tell them is that there's plenty of ways without using external solutions to solve these problems, by playing around with your pricing, by switching your billing to maybe upfront payments when you can, making your clients pay commission upfront, re-signing your clients when they're on the point of churning, or maybe 3 months or 6 months before their client churns. And there's plenty of ways to make sure that you're not vulnerable to that cash conversion cycle and that you recoup your euros a lot sooner than you think you would. And the sooner you recoup those euros, the quicker you can invest and the quicker you can scale your business.
Yeah, I don't know what it is when you got a lot of money on your bank account, but I think one of the traits that is very interesting when you're bootstrap is that you have to be very good at managing your budgets. Even if it's low, it's actually, even worse. Like, you have to really be good at projecting, trying to, I see that as navigate a boat or something. Like, you have to be very agile in what you do, and you don't have a lot of room for errors. So I think that's one of the traits, one of the skills you have to have. Basically, I've always been good at that, I think. So that probably makes sense to me to have chosen that path. And because there's always this kind of, you make a mistake, it might be very expensive, you don't really care, where you got plenty of money and plenty of people to back you up behind, but where you're alone on your boat and then just doing a big mistake and just crash the whole thing, you have to be very good at that. And I don't know if there are, in your mind, maybe Loic or Gabriel, traits, skills that you think bootstrapper share, like this one maybe, or I don't know, maybe Loic, if you have any idea. Des qualités de bootstrapper que tu penses que les gens ont, comme bien gérer leur budget.
Qualité. The first quality, just to have patience, of course. If you don't have patience, I think after 6 months, it's over. Because it's very, very nice adventure, but very tight adventure. And patience is just your gasoline. And the second thing is to have a good story. A natural story, of course. Because if you have a natural story, you are in your world. So you can just grow up naturally. With patience, I think twice is a good way to grow up your company, I think, to me.
I think something we see in the bootstrap companies we accompany is 2 things. Is first, as you said, they're very good at managing money. And managing money doesn't mean just being able to read the spreadsheet and seeing what is green and what is red, but it's negotiating with suppliers so that you can pay them 30 days later, which helps you smoothen out your cash flow cycle. It's making sure that your clients pay you on time, and that once you have a bill outstanding for 30 days, it's paid in 15 days and not in 30 days. And it just means being really aware on top of things so that you know where the money that's flowing out of your business and flowing in your business is, and what is due soon and what is due later. And that's a very hard skill when you're growing, because you're getting more and more clients, you're getting more and more different stakeholders. But the bootstrap entrepreneurs that we see in Control, they're very good at doing that. And they're the ones calling their suppliers on a day-to-day basis, telling them, look, I'm going to pay you 30 days later, and that's how it's going to be. Because they know that if they delay that payment by 30 days, well, they can pay the salary of their employees for the next 30 days, right? And that's a very important thing to do. The second quality we see is they're very ROist in what they do. Because they don't have, the balance sheet of a VC-backed company, every investment they make needs to be very strategic and very well thought of. And so they find, we think, very creative and smart ways to test things that, for example, a big company or a big tech company or a VC-backed company will just say, oh, we have money, we can test it, and we won't find the smartest or most optimized way to do it. And when resources are scarce and you're trying to find your niche, you're trying to find your customer segment, you're trying to find your product niche, finding a cost-effective way to test things quickly is the most resourceful thing you can scale to make sure that you iterate quickly and that you find new products, new clients, new jurisdictions, whatever it may be. And the best bootstrap companies that we accompany have those two qualities, right? They're very close to the money and they know how to manage it, and they're very efficient into how they reinvest and they re-employ the capital that they've been able to secure.
Okay, so that's a pretty good summary. So being good at managing money, being focused, being smart, and being passionate. I like that because I think that's true. It's true for any company, but it's worse for like bootstrap company where you have to be very patient because it takes a lot of time to take off, basically. It's worse when you start with almost nothing. So that's a very good summary. I relate on all of that.
It takes time, but once you have it, you're in control. It's your rocket ship. You're the one driving it, and we see it in the entrepreneurs that we finance. They're the happiest guys in the world. They don't have to do board meetings. They don't have to report and do investor updates. They run their ship like they want to, and they make their own decisions, whether they're right or wrong. And that's, I think, one of the most powerful things.
Yeah, you're right. We do board meetings in a bar, so that's great. Just a quick poll in the room. Is there anyone that is in a bootstrap company here, or are you guys all VC-backed? Raise your hand if you are bootstrap or think about bootstrapping. Okay, there's a few. Okay, cool, pretty cool. Congrats, guys.
Yeah, congrats.
I think that's a pretty good summary. We'll take any question if there's any question in the room about bootstrapping, if there are people that... Yep.
So one of the values, the implied values that you get from having investors is that your company is valuable. So if what you're trying to do is have an exit strategy, do you lose something by not having investors to show that there are others who have confidence in your future?
I don't think you need to raise money. There's one company in France that did that, like going into a VC, ask for money, and then just denied it, like we don't want it, and they get a number of your value. If you want to, if what you mean by value and you just want to having a number about what might be your company worth, but you can do that by yourself. You know your metrics, you know your KPI, you know a lot of things you can compare to companies doing. You might have competitors and you might get access to whatever they raised, the public market too. So I think it's what I was saying before, is like it's important sometimes for your customers to know that you're valuable and you're worth something, but it's also very risky because you know a lot of startups, I don't know the stats, but like maybe 90% of the startups are just going to die. So that's not because the VC said, okay, we're going to bet on that horse that is going to win the race anyway. So you think it's valuable at a point in time and then you say it's just worth nothing. So I'm not sure how interesting it is in the end to have that. I don't know, Gabriel.
I do agree with you. There is a world where the investors you have on your cap table definitely create a signaling that you're a great company, that you're growing very fast, that maybe you've been able to assemble a great team of individuals. But whatever world that is, it is still not as important as the numbers that your company is able to pull out that speak a lot more than whatever name or whatever logo you have on your cap table. And just being able to show to anybody, whether it's an acquisition target or a potential buyer or a potential retaker or IPO or whatever M&A situation you're in, that you have strong, sustainable, and positive cash flow will speak a lot louder than any international VC or business angel or corporate VC that can back you. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters and not what they're buying. They're buying the ability of your company to generate future earnings and future cash flows, and that's what they care in.
Is there any other question? Nope. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.